Usman is the biggest threat to Belal Muhammad at welterweight right this minute. Yeah, I know that's a real hot take, and I know you guys are going to come after me for it, but I am right, and let me explain exactly why. But before I do, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, helps with the YouTube algorithm, it helps grow the channel. One thing that Tom Aspinall said the other day was he thinks that Belal Muhammad is going to be champion throughout all of 2025, and I think he's right. If Belal Muhammad's next opponents are people like Shavkat Rakhmonov or Ian Garry or Colby Covington or Sean Brady, even JDM, I think he's got a really good chance at beating them. He's got a chance at dominating Leon Edwards again, right? But I think that Kamaru Usman has a really good chance stylistically against Belal Muhammad. And I know you guys are like, what? Kamaru Usman got beaten twice by Leon Edwards. He's getting older. There's absolutely no way that he can contend with Belal Muhammad. Look, what I will say is that Kamaru Usman, on paper at the very least, can contend with all of the skills that Belal Muhammad has, right? He can wrestle, so can Kamaru Usman. You know, he has cardio, so does Kamaru Usman. There is absolutely no submission threat from Belal Muhammad, so Usman doesn't have to worry about that. And there's very little knockout threat, so Usman doesn't have to worry about that. It would just essentially be what I would think is kind of a chess match on the striking side of things. And Kamaru Usman has a pretty crisp, 1-2, very basic, simple boxing that has been very effective for him. To the point where in his last outing at 185 on short notice against Khamzat Chimaev, over a year ago, yes, inactivity is a thing, ring rest is a thing, so that could certainly be an issue if they ever fought. But that, kind of basic, crisp level boxing, 1-2, etc., started to shift the momentum in his favor in that fight, where someone like Michael Bisping thought that Kamaru Usman came out on top. A lot of people are saying if that had been a 5-round fight, Usman would have won. You know what I mean? And look, I know what you guys are going to think. You're like, well, yeah, but Usman lost to Chimaev and he lost to Leon twice, right? But let's think back to a couple things that happened, right? First of all, that fight, the first fight where Leon lost, or Leon won, the head kick, the only exciting thing Leon's ever done, by the way, Usman was winning that fight right up until like 2 minutes left. And in their second fight out, a lot of people are thinking that he came back too early to try to reclaim his belt. And he was a bit gun-shy because of, he was really worried about, making sure he blocked that head kick. So he's a bit gun-shy, right? Which who wouldn't be? But then a lot of people were saying that if the Usman that showed up to face Khamzat Chimaev on short notice last year, if that guy had shown up, he would have beaten Leon. That's what a lot of people said. That's what I said. Right? Again, you never know. Anything can happen. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. I get it, right? Nevertheless, I do think that Kamaru Usman right now, from everybody we've seen, poses the biggest stylistic matchup problem for Belal Muhammad, because there's really nowhere that I can see where he can take this fight where Usman doesn't have an answer, right? In the striking, they're probably pretty close to even. In the wrestling, at least on paper, Usman might have a slight advantage, but you never know, right? Because, Belal's been super active. He's pretty aggressive with the grappling, right? He might be able to move a little bit better than Usman, right? He's, I think, 1 year younger, maybe 2. I think Usman's 37 or 38, something like that. So, and obviously he's been active, but it's like, yeah, I really do think that on paper, that is a really, really interesting fight between Kamaru Usman and Belal Muhammad. And I truly think that Kamaru Usman would have a really good chance at defeating Belal Muhammad. Unlike some of the other guys we've seen, I haven't watched JDM too closely, but like he can be taken down pretty easily, right? You know, we did see that Shavkat Rakhmonov, like he was able to get his takedown stuffed by Ian Garry. I think Belal Muhammad would have the same thing. He's not great in the pocket. Belal Muhammad has some pretty good boxing. I think he could definitely do more damage. We saw some issues with the leg kicks from Ian Garry. So, you know, that could, all of those things are things that Belal Muhammad can and will expose. Like, he is the game plan master, right? So he is going to take a fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov to where he is worst and he's just slightly better, right? And same thing with Ian Garry. He's going to wrestle him all day long. Same thing with JDM. He's going to wrestle him all day long. He's got a wicked chin. So, like, all of these guys, I don't see anything that they can do to Belal Muhammad that he can't find a weakness and expose it, except for Kamaru Usman, right? Like, I mean, obviously there might be some issues, like he got caught, right? But he's not going to submit Usman and he's not going to knock him out, right? So it's just going to be, you know, kind of a striking chess match, if anything. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to get a takedown. Nobody could except for Chimaev, right? And maybe Colby one time. So it'll be really interesting to see that fight. And I really, like, Usman, it's probably not going to happen, number one, because Usman's lost 3 in a row now. But at the end of the day, like, I do think that if he gets one win, I want to see that fight. If he beats JDM or if he beats Sean Brady or if he beats any of these guys, I'd like to see him get one more crack at the welterweight title. And I think, you know, if Belal should look at this as potentially a decent matchup because, I mean, what a name to add to your resume, right? Like, if you win, you beat arguably the best welterweight of your generation, right? And then that conversation of you potentially being the best welterweight ever, like, that is not as insane as it once sounded, right? Another guy that I think could potentially be a threat to Belal Muhammad is Buckley. Like, and here's the thing, right? Buckley certainly has his takedown defense isn't the greatest. Like, Colby got him to the ground a couple times. Colby's a good wrestler, by the way. Like, let's not pull any punches. Like, his wrestling is still good, right? But you know, when Belal Muhammad usually has people kind of on the ground with the wrestling, he doesn't do a lot of damage there, right? Whereas Buckley can crack. He clearly hits hard. He can clearly do damage on the feet. You know, he can wrestle and grapple a little bit, I don't think he's at Belal Muhammad's level, right? But I think, you know, his striking and the power behind his strikes could pose a problem for Belal in the sense that, like, if it were something where Belal saw in the game plan that he could take the fight to the ground, you know, if Buckley can get back up, it could be one of these things where, you know, he just out-damages him, right? Because the judges now are super heavy on damage. Like, even if you have 4 minutes of control time, but in that 1 minute someone does a huge amount of damage on the feet, like, they probably are going to give the round to the guy who did all the damage on the feet. So that's where I'm at right now. I think the two biggest threats to Belal Muhammad are Kamaru Usman, and I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy. I know that, right? But, like, I don't see anywhere that Belal Muhammad can actually take the fight where Usman is weak. The only thing I think he'll have a big advantage in is movement, right? Like, Usman's a little bit more, he doesn't move as well as he used to. You know, he's getting older. I think Belal Muhammad's sort of side to side and movement might cause some problems for Usman, but I don't think he's superior in the grappling and the striking. There's nothing, you know, like, I don't think Usman knocks him out. I don't think Belal Muhammad, I don't think he knocks him out. There's no submission threats from either of them, I don't really think. So it's just going to be sort of like who has the more crisp and better kind of rudimentary boxing. Like, that's really what that fight would come down to. So it's interesting, and then like I said, Buckley, like I think there are holes in his game. There are holes but he does enough damage and has enough power where he could cause problems. And that would be the same thing with Shavkat Rakhmonov, right? Like he does hit hard enough where he could obviously take the rounds, right? But I think Belal Muhammad would really. He would cancel out his wrestling. I think he would try to stay in the pocket there and outbox Shavkat. He's the shorter guy, so if he's in close, he can cause problems there. He's the shorter guy, so a wrestling advantage could be there for him. But that's what I think. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Let me know in the comments. We'll see you guys next time.